What is up, internet world, and welcome back to Accelerate. My name is Mike, and the man behind the camera is Ian, and today we bring you the 2023 IONIQ 6. Make a statement? Yup, that's what this does. Whether you like it or not, love it or list it, this is a weird looking car. The front of it is very, very retro, and the back of it looks like a Porsche. It's called an IONIQ 6. The IONIQ 5 is a little cute sportback. They like to call it an SUV, but it's really a little sport hatchback. It's got lots of space inside because it's electric. But now Hyundai's brought us their sedan. Their slopey sedan that's very slippery, that likes to get rid of any wind resistance the world offers it. So let's get into this video on this brand new 2023 IONIQ 6. I'm in the all-new Hyundai IONIQ 6. This is an all-wheel drive, so I get an extra 100 horsepower, extra, because it is all-wheel drive. It makes a whopping 320 horsepower and a monstrous 446 pound-feet of torque. Now I have different drive modes: Eco, Normal, and Sport. Sport activated. Press my little button here so I can see how fast this puppy does. And foot to the ground, and let's go. Ooh, wow. Ooh. Smooth and quick. 4.56 to 60. Let's try that one more time. So I forgot to mention, I have 73% battery, not 100%. So let's try. It's not like I can do anything. I press the brake, gas, nothing. So just gas the ground, take the foot where the brake is, and move it. 4.48. Ooh, baby, getting faster. So, how was your Sunday? Oh, mine was... 4.44. All right, you get the drift. It's in the 4.4 seconds, which is huge numbers. I remember back in my days, the 911 Turbo, so the older generation would run it in low fours. So a Hyundai IONIQ, which honestly looks like the inside of a hospital I never want to visit, is as quick as an older generation 911 Turbo. That's how quick these things are, and it's just the way of the world today. Electric cars are just brutally fast and kind of boring. So we gave this IONIQ 6 a first look at the LA Auto Show, and absolutely nobody watched it. So hopefully you do. So let's get into the trims, and there are 7 of them in the US. Starting off with the SE rear-wheel drive standard range. Then you have the rear-wheel drive long range, the SEL rear-wheel drive long range, the limited rear-wheel drive long range, then the SE all-wheel drive, the SEL all-wheel drive, and finally the limited all-wheel drive long range. And if you're wondering what they start at, they have a starting price of $42,715 all the way to the top at $57,215. I'm always curious to know how they come up with these numbers. You see, I have a bunch of businesses, and when I give quotes out, I'm always thinking, well, what's $31,300 versus $31,275? What looks better on paper, and what guarantees me more of the deal? Now, if all those trim levels didn't make any sense to you, I totally get it. But all you have to know is Hyundai is doing the IONIQ 6 a la carte. So you can get small battery, big battery. You can get 3 different trim levels: SE, SEL, and limited. And you can also choose if you want to have rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. So just pick your choice, and voila, Hyundai will give it to you. So to the front, very retro. People call this sort of an Oldsmobile Aurora type design. This to me is very short overhang. It looks like it potentially could have the old sort of headlights that open and close, but it's not. It just kind of funky, weird. Looks like a Beetle, like an actual Beetle. It's got 700 parametric pixels, lots of these little squares everywhere that illuminate. Some do, some don't, but that's the vibe. You got 700 of them. You've got these cool flaps on the bottom that do open and close. That is funky. And then you have this massive radar in the middle and more parametric pixels on the bottom. If you're wondering where your camera is, it's hiding right here underneath this massive Hyundai badge. And again, this is sort of a unique color. It's a blue purpley. It's not exactly flat, but I like to call it blue primer. So let's see how much room is underneath the frunk. Now, most vehicles are getting smaller and smaller, and this is no different. There's just a really small compartment up here. You cannot put a bag or anything. This is probably just a bunch of books, maybe a bunch of kids' cell phones. No idea why they put it here, but that's how much room you have. And it doesn't say IONIQ 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. It simply just says IONIQ. I'm assuming that you're going to use this for future IONIQs. To the side of the IONIQ 6. As far as wheels go, these are 20s. You could also get 18s. An interesting point about this vehicle, though, is that instead of having rubber bushings, you have hydraulic bushings, which means it's a lot softer. And when I did drive it, I can tell you that it's really quiet inside and handles the bumps really gently and elegantly. Now, the battery's all housed right at the bottom here. So there's a little bit of thickness when it comes to, let's open up this door and show you. There's a little bit of thickness, not too much, which I wanted to point out because a lot of vehicles are thick, especially some domestic. I'm speaking to you, Ford, with your Mach-E. Very thick. This is thinner, and I do like that. Now, you probably can't see it, but underneath the car, you have a lot of flat paneling to minimize aerodynamics, to make it more smooth and silky, just like the top. Now, as far as handles go, you can see they are super flush. I did get a little bit of an issue when I had the key in my pocket, and I will show you the key, how it looks. It's just really cheap. Very, very cheap looking key. Just plastic, just not quality for what this kind of costs. Did I mention parametric pixels? Well, you get 7 more here. 6 plus 1 big one. And then you have a 360 camera. But let's get back to these door handles here. When I lock the car, it goes away. And then when I walk up to it and I do one of these things, it's just, yeah, just like, then it all opens up. I get it, but it's just like one extra step, if that makes any sense. I just feel like I want to come to a car and pull it and not kind of play around with these things. Now I know I'm standing right here and I just locked it, but even still, I was having a couple issues with these door locks, trying to get it open, and it was rather kind of. Now moving to the back, you will see how wide and long this door panel is, and that is because you have a massive back seat. There's so much room back here, it feels like a limo. Really long back seat, lots of visibility in the back, as you can see by these giant windows, even with this slant back design. Now, as far as charging it, it happens right here. There's more pixels, 6 of them. You push it, and it opens up fully automatically. Boom. Boomity boom, more pixels, 700 of them if you remembered. Now I can close this, bye-bye. This part here is very Porsche. You've got a dual wing, one at the top and one at the bottom, and then you have a ton of pixels. So let's get to the back. To the back of the IONIQ 6. Now, first things first is check out these dual spoilers. A huge one, like a wingtail, or a slant tail in the back. Very Porsche, if you ask me. Now the third brake light is hiding right here in this spot right there. It's so modern, futuristic. I absolutely love it. Of course, there's more pixels, but you know, we talked enough about that. Then you have the Hyundai badge here, a little wing spoiler that's very similar to an extended M3. Love it. And then a lot of pixels down here. This is where the bulk of the 700 are hiding, right there. It does a pretty cool light feature when you hit the brakes. You will see it's more illuminated along with this third brake light. Then you have hidden is this IONIQ 6 badge. It's right behind this plastic, very similar to Porsche. Porsche did that in their new 911s. It's hiding behind, or it's past the glass, essentially. This is where the rear camera is hiding. There's a button right here to open up the trunk, and I will show you what it looks like. Again, more pixels, 6 of them to be exact. It is a power trunk. This opens up. You've got 2 buttons. This is not exactly fully height adjustable because it's not a tailgate. It's just a simple trunk. You've got your close your trunk, and then of course a button next to it. So when you walk away from the vehicle, you can simply hit that button and then the vehicle will lock. So I hit it, it beeps, it closes automatically. Voila, very cool. Underneath that, you've got a really modern futuristic design when it comes to the lower part of the bumper. It is sort of a dark, it looks black here, but it's actually like a very, very dark gray. You've got your Parktronic sensors. You do have more pixelated pixels right there, and then you have this little indentation to give it more of a sporty appearance. This is all electric, so there are no exhausts. And then let's move our body into the trunk. So how large is the trunk of the IONIQ 6? Well, you can fit 2 bodies in here. You can fit me and somebody else. Obviously, if I'm here under serious pressure or a death threat, I would probably squeeze a little bit more, and you can possibly fit me again, and you. Front seat of the IONIQ 6. Oh, that's cute. 4 little parametric squares. That is actually H in Morse code. Yep, that's what it is. So there's no Hyundai badge. It's been replaced by 4 little squares. Parametric squares that change color when I put in different drive modes. If we start with the door panel, you will see that there's these little waves up and down on the door panel. Now there's lots to talk about in terms of environmentally friendly materials in this, and I will get into that. But we can talk about the blandliness, is that even a word, of this interior. It's very, very sterile. These flaps that look like Spock's ears from Star Trek along the side. Just a lot going on in terms of visuals here. As far as these seats go, they are fairly firm. The material is hard, which means it won't wear very easy. It's going to hold its longevity in life. It does have lumbar support on the driver as well as the passenger. These headrests do not slide in or out. They just simply go up or down. And of course, they are not powered. They should be, but they are not. Only this guy is powered. If I talk about the door panel here, I will say that it's a lot of plastic. You have dual laminated windows. You've got, as I mentioned, this curvy little texture on the door panel itself. And then you have this centerpiece that also doubles as an armrest where they hide the Bose sound system. Really big, massive grille. Again, that also flows with the cup holders or bottle holders on the side and storage for chips. Yummy. So if you're wondering where the window switches are to have the windows go up and down, they're not in the door panel. They're in the center console, just like a Wrangler and a Bronco, because I guess you could take the doors off on your IONIQ 6. So moving on onto the dash, you have a button to unplug your charging port. You've got a button to pop the trunk and close it at the same time. You've got your stability program, your electromechanical parking brake, and of course your window switches. So as far as buttons on the steering wheel, you do have your paddles left and right. That is to reduce how much regeneration there is. On the left side here, you have all your cruise control buttons, your keeping your lane, your stop and go. And then from there underneath, you have your drive modes. This is where you have the pixels change color right on the steering wheel. To the right of it, you have all your different modes when it comes to volume, picking buttons, and of course, toggling through different audio systems, including your phone. To the right, I can see my big screen. Again, this is a 12.3-inch screen. You also have a 12.3-inch driver display. Now, all Hyundais and Kias do not allow you to have wireless CarPlay when you have the larger screen, so you have to wire or plug in your Apple CarPlay. Now, you do have a wireless charger down here that shows you more pixels, nice and fancy on the bottom. You've got a USB, not a USB-C, 2 large cup holders, again your window switches, your automatic brake hold, and then of course a button here so the kids in the back cannot put the windows up and down. As far as the center armrest go, it is not adjustable. You cannot slide it backwards and forwards, but you can lift it up, exposing a small little tray and 2 USB-Cs in the actual glove box. Now, if you're wondering how deep this glove box is, it's probably as tall as an iPhone 14, which fits perfectly in this little wireless pad there. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into the screen or the HVAC controls because they're very easy to read, very clean, and we've gone into a ton of Kia and Hyundai product, and they're pretty much exactly the same, except this one has one feature from their SUVs, and it's called quiet mode. That's where it drops the audio in the car so the kids can sleep better. Now there's 3 different drive modes: Eco, Normal, and Sport, and you can see how the mileage changes. I have 90% of battery, and I can do 390 kilometers in Eco, 378 in Normal, and 367 in Sport. And you can also see, as I talked about, this pixel on the steering wheel change. You have one color there. You've got green, clear, red. Green, clear, red. Okay. In the back seat, and see how it feels. Whoo, a lot of recycled going on. There's a lot of recycled plastics, recycled fishing nets, believe it or not. This is faux leather, and it feels squishy, very squishy to touch. It doesn't really feel like leather, but if you know that it's like saving the environment, then, you know, it's acceptable. I think people back here will feel fairly comfortable. One thing for sure is there's a ton of room, like a ton of room. I can barely reach the front seat, and that seat has been pushed back for me to film. So I will tell you that it's positioned in a way that I would not normally drive. I'd be way further forward. The door panel itself comes further back, different from the front. It's got this little elbow portion that whips back up like a tail or a fin, which is kind of funky and unique. I like how the speaker grill is now a little bit more recessed, where I have a spot that I can put my hand to close the door, as well as a little spot maybe to put some chips. Possibly not, it'll be stuck in the speaker. There is a spot behind where the ambient lighting is hidden. You can probably put your hand there to close the door. It also has heated seats on this side and that side. However, there are 2 increments. In the front, there are 3. The other thing I want to talk about is it does have a vehicle to load feature, which means when you want to power something, you can simply just use the plug and you can charge another car, or you can use it to plug a toaster in or plug in some guitar amplifiers. You can do whatever you want with the power that is available to you on this IONIQ 6. You do have 2 USB-Cs back here, a little bit of storage, 2 vents. You have mats on both sides behind the seats so you can store stuff. The seats fold down 60-40. And let's talk about the center here and these 2 cup holders. They're designed for standard cups. Everything else seems pretty straightforward. Of course, you know this is electric, so there is no hump here because there's no shaft going from the front to the back. It's completely flat, so the people in the middle can actually put their feet somewhere. As far as suspension goes, it's got McPherson struts in the front and a multi-link rear in the back, and you can tell because it just plants very well, great suspension. That combination has always done well in vehicles, so there's no difference here. It's just great, nothing to complain about whatsoever. Feels solid, feels German, because we always feel like we have to give you some sort of baseline vehicle comparison, and they just do it really well. Hyundai's keeping your lane is the best in the world. Better than any other brand out there. This thing keeps you right dead center in the middle of the lane when you set your little button here to keep you between the lines. It is the best out there. Visibility. All right, lots of visibility. No issues there. Blind spots? Nope. You have that little tiny window back there. If that tiny window wasn't there, I would say it would be not so good, but you have that little tiny window, so thumbs up, no problems with blind spots. I always drive an iPedal because iPedal is like the max regen, and you want max regen, which means maximum braking, which means you can completely one pedal drive this thing. Like, I'm saying completely. You don't ever have to use the brakes, which is why braking is not really that much of a factor for electric cars. Unless, of course, you drive them fast. Then you need the brakes to work and work well. They haven't really figured that part out yet. It works well, but not really, well enough that you can performance drive these things all day long. Hyundai says you can charge this up to 80% in 18 minutes. And if you plug it in to your household level 2 charger, it can do it in about 7 hours. Now, of course, in order to optimize charging, you can get the battery to preheat. You can set the time that it charges, all that fun stuff. So in this one, you can get a 53 kilowatt battery as well as a 77 kilowatt hour battery. And they produce different power. Also, depending on if you get all-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive, you get basically 225 horsepower or this 320 horsepower version. Now, with that said, it depends on range. So it depends on which trim level you get. You get different range, anywhere from 305 miles to 361 miles of range. And range is so tricky because it depends on how you drive. So no matter what vehicle you buy in any sort of class or range, don't really believe what you see on paper. It really depends on how you drive. Because, take for example, the Tesla. I get kilometers, 630K on a full charge. I've never got 630K, just never. I actually can probably get around 400, but then I never take it down to 0 ever either. So it's always that sweet spot of where you're gonna go to and charge it up. That's really what it comes down to. This at 350 miles or whatever, are you ever going to use all 350 miles? No. Are you ever going to get 350 miles? Depending on how you drive. Most people will never get that. Most people always use about 300 miles or 250 miles, that sort of range. But then again, if the vehicle only do 250 miles, then that sort of limits you. So I guess it's always about understanding the upper limit of the vehicle and then sort of taking 20% off that, and that's sort of your expected range. I do really like the IONIQ 6. Personally, I prefer the IONIQ 5 better. I just like the style of it. It's funky. I like those grid patterns. It's super cool. Similar to this, obviously got the pixels and all that stuff. I love it. I love that little like touch to technology of the future. I mean, as funny as it is about this sterile interior, I do think that it's good. It won't age as badly as some of the other manufacturers that are trying something funky. I think it is good. They've sort of mixed it all together. The design, I do like it. I mean, it's retro in the front and funky in the back. But what I like the best is it's easy to get into and just drive. The driving part of it is easy. Yeah, it's just very comfortable. It's smooth. Tons of space in the back. Tons. So numerically, if your mind was thinking, I'm going to wait for the IONIQ 7 because the 5 was a little SUV, station wagon, then there's this whale tail of a saloon. The 7 must be their flagship. Well, I'm here to tell you that the 7's an SUV. A big one. Not a small little guy. It's not a car. So if you want a car that's funky on the outside, priced decent for what it is, actually, because remember what a battery costs. Luxurious, tons of space in the back, just a commuter back and forth, decent mileage, has all the tech you could need, tons of underspace. But yeah, if that's what you're looking for, this could be it. The outside especially. The outside's funky. There's nothing that looks like it. Nothing. Nada. So if you liked it, hey, let us know in the comments below. Would you buy one of these things? A Hyundai IONIQ 6. Let me know in the comments below. As always, thanks for your support. Thanks for watching Accelerate. We'll see you in the next one.